You know, one of the things we also found interesting is if we try to create parallels between Mary's life with Percy and the monster's relationship to Victor Frankenstein, what we find is that actually, most likely, Mary Shelley really related to the monster and not to the artist, not to Victor Frankenstein. And so we're very interested in how that all plays out. She has this marriage with Percy, but also he has convinced her to live, you know, as a threesome, as a menage a trois with her half-sister. And so she's constantly surrounded by these kinds of very complicated feelings, and she goes with it, but there still seems to be some kind of resistance and some kind of power that goes on with that relationship, which seems to have informed this really important novel. Nothing she wrote besides Frankenstein really became as significant in our culture as this novel that really started as a dream, then was turned into a short story, and then finally was expanded to something full length. So we try to give suggestions to some of the relationship to Victor Frankenstein and his bride. I mean, there's all kinds of really complex things going on with Victor's own mother, and, you know, this woman he's been promised to that becomes his fiancée. So we suggest that through the text and through different ways of the relationships between the dancers, without the audience needing to have all of that information, because Frankenstein's a loaded book way before the creation even starts. So we're just sort of hinting at those concepts and those sorts of complexities through movement.
And I think by taking some of these themes of Mary's life and weaving her in and out of this dream and in and out of this novel, we've been able to kind of have a very condensed 45-minute one-act production that does really touch on some of these themes in a very profound way, but as Addie mentioned, not developed to the full extent, but they do serve their purpose, and I think that we're able to get across a lot of the most important themes of the novel and of Mary Shelley and her work. Once again, it's in a lot of my productions, it's been important that I return to the text. In my Romeo and Juliet, I wanted to very much go back to all the text, go back to the play, and we even integrated live spoken word into that production as well. With Titus Andronicus, it was very important that I really follow the text religiously. Obviously, it was an interpretation of the text, but it was only after knowing the text very well. Again, with Victor Frankenstein, we felt that the text is something that perhaps people don't remember, and what we decided to do with it was to actually integrate it into the overall sound design, and I think it really helps to solidify the identity of the novel. Addie's been very involved with the choice of text and the choice of actors that we use for the text.
We were really fortunate to work with two members of Catastrophic Theater, Tamry Cooper and Greg Dean, and they were really great at capturing the internal monologues of our characters. So one of the things that's common in a lot of the other adaptations of Frankenstein is that, you know, we have this monster he's created, and he can barely speak. He makes these really weird animal noises. It's very funny. It becomes a comic effect. And actually, in the novel, there's an entire section devoted to his tale, where he's really telling Victor Frankenstein about how he feels as this abandoned child that really doesn't know what he's doing. And through his journey, he becomes quite eloquent. So we're looking at the text and the sound design to give reverence to the monster's tale, to his own voice, which has been, you know, cast out of most productions, you know, for whatever reason.
we continued to work together, actually, to discuss the look of the piece, the layout, the synopsis, the musical score and sound design. Addie continued to be very heavily involved with every aspect of the creation. We have Domenico Luciano doing the costume design for this production, and again, the three of us have been very involved together to find the right fit for everything, which has been really extraordinary. She's also been in the rehearsals with us, and it's been amazing for me to be able to have another set of eyes looking at the material as it's being corrected and shaped and changed, and she's got so much to add.
This is really the first time I've collaborated in this way, at this capacity with a dance company at all, or something of this volume. I really thought when I first came to Dominic with this idea that I would come in, I would have this idea, we would discuss the story together, come up with an idea of what the narrative of the dance was going to be, and I would go on my merry way, and he would choreograph, and that would be that. And I have my own varied relationship to cinema and theater and dance from my own involvement. When I was growing up, I watched my father from the time I was 8 to the time I was 20 act in this Chinese drama group. So I saw a lot of productions get made, and I watched them, fascinated by all these different elements. And I think that's really informed me and the different ideas I've had about sound and set and costume, and how to express something on stage to a viewer that has limited experience of the background of this narrative. And I'm just so privileged to be in a collaboration with someone that's really open. Pretty much any idea I had, he was very open to hearing it and thinking about it and letting it sit with him to see if that was as right for him as it was interesting to me. So the more that I voiced, the more questions he asked, the more involved I became in all of these different facets. And we didn't always decide on those things that I brought up to him, but we were both excited about exploring these ideas and seeing where they would go. And so I find that to be a really exciting part of our collaboration, and very rare and completely unexpected.
I like that. I like that sharing process. I like to hear other ideas. I love to hear other input. I like to give other suggestions and options to a solution, and just that true spirit of collaboration. And I just think we've been really lucky to have found each other at this time for this creation. It's not always like this, and it's been very inspiring.
In our first meeting in his office, when I was telling him, why I was so interested in Frankenstein and how I saw that this would go, he asked me, what do you envision as your role on this project? And he brought up a previous relationship he had with the costume and set designer of Titus, and that she was more like a co-conceiver than a costume designer. And I said, well, that would be my fantasy. That would be my dream. And he sort of laughed. But really, I think that's how this is developed in a very nice, subtle, sort of organic way as it came together. There was no pressure to define our relationship in very specific terms. It sort of was built over the last 2 years that we've been, talking and investigating these ideas and how we could get those ideas to work on stage.
The world premiere of Victor Frankenstein will be February 10th, 11th, and 12th at the Hobby Center for the Performing Arts. Also on the program is a revival of Afternoon of a Faun, and the centerpiece of the evening is Pas de Danse by Swedish icon choreographer Mats Ek. Dominic Walsh Dance Theater will be the first American company to obtain the rights to perform a work by the master. So come join us for our second course on February 10th, 11th, and 12th at the Hobby Center. Call 713-315-2525 for tickets, or dwdt.org. Thanks.